Yeshua clearly taught his disciples that he did not come to get rid of one jot or tittle of the law till heaven and earth as we know it pass away. In Matthew 5, he says, "Think not that I've come to destroy the law or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to verify or render it perfect. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, not one jot or one tittle shall no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled or all be brought to pass." Those who call themselves by the Jewish people today have the correct list of the commandments and the 613 commandments that they call the mitzvah. Um, if you compare their list to Scripture, you certainly will find that they have added to it different ideas and taken away from it in others. Is Yeshua simply referring to the Ten Commandments? No, he's referring to the entire law. The law that was given through Moses was the law of physical requirements to teach us spiritual lessons. Psalms 19, the law of Yahweh is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of Yahweh is sure, making wise the simple. We are told in mainstream Christianity that we are saved by grace. Yes, it certainly is a matter of his grace and his mercy, but man has taken his grace and turned it into a license to transgress the law, just as the author of Jude talked about. Is grace the message taught by Yeshua or any of the prophets? Did Yahweh Elohim change? Scripture teaches us that he changes not. He is the same yesterday and today and forever. The sacrificial system was to teach us the seriousness of transgressing the law. Of course, there is no temple to offer up sacrifices today and no Levitical priesthood in place. And the sacrificial system also pointed us to our Messiah who died on our behalf to pay for our transgressions, but not so we could keep transgressing the law. He shed his blood so that we could be forgiven and change direction and to turn unto his ways. Yeshua certainly did clarify some things as he's here about the law, and he certainly magnified others. The law was put in place by our Creator that he could shape and mold us in his image, his perfect holy image and character. In Deuteronomy 7, "For thou art a holy people unto Yahweh thy Elohim. Yahweh thy Elohim hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all the people that are upon the face of the earth." We see that he is purposing to build a family. In Genesis, we read that he intends to make us in his image. So what is wrong with the equation? The same thing that was wrong with Adam and Eve. They chose right and wrong for themselves. Same thing each one of us does when we decide to go against what his instructions say. So were we created then with a design flaw? Well, yes, we were created incomplete. It's his word, his truth that completes us and brings us into his will. And this was necessary to accomplish his plan to build a family. He gave us free will and free choice to choose his ways, to want what he has to offer. He owes us nothing. He gave us life, and he freely allows us to go and live our life on our own, apart from him if we choose to. He does not force his ways on us. Moses records in Deuteronomy 30, "I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou mayest love Yahweh thy Elohim, and thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him, for he is thy life, and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which Yahweh sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give to them." We have the choice to choose him. Today I'm going to discuss some basic commands about who he is to be to us. In Leviticus 22, we read, "Neither shall ye profane my holy name, but I will be hallowed among the children of Israel, and I am Yahweh which hallows you, that brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Egypt is a symbol for coming out of the bondage. "To be your Elohim, I am Yahweh." It says here that we shall not profane his holy name, which is who he is. It is his character. Profane is translated from the Hebrew word kalal, to wound, to dissolve, to profane, to break, to defile or pollute, to prostitute, or to stain. Hallow here is, and hallowed are both from the Hebrew word kadash, to causatively make or pronounce or to observe clean, to make clean, to purify. We're commanded here to not wound or dissolve who he is. He is to be pure to us, and he purposes to make us pure or white if we will hearken unto him and yield to his design. This is the most serious indeed, because his perfect way of drawing it up, we are to purge out evil from amongst us. In Leviticus 24, "And he that blasphemeth the name of Yahweh, he shall surely be put to death. This is serious consequences. Blasphemeth, here's translated from the Hebrew word, probably butchering how these are pronounced, but nakab, to puncture, or to perforate, or to libel. Or, so it's basically, blasphemy is a good translation for it there. The Jewish people pervert this by saying that the written name of Yahweh cannot be erased. This is why they use the YHWH without the vowels, and some like God, G underscore D, but for this reason, without the vowels. This is not what the instructions are saying. The word used for name here is the Hebrew word shame. It's a mark or a memorial of an individual, by implication, honor, or the authority of, or the character of. So puncturing or doing evil to his character was commanded to be punishable by death. Think what a wonderful world it would be if people lived esteeming the very character of Elohim and his commandments that are truly all about love anyhow, loving him and loving one another. And if the whole world was afraid of representing his character wrong, realizing that the penalty is death, there might be some changing going on. I know I've certainly lived a life of blaspheming his character myself, as I've claimed to be his while rejecting his commandments. I'm just happy that he has granted me in his mercy to forgive me, and I don't want to take lightly his character ever again. In doing so, I would be blaspheming the blood of his son who died on my behalf, and that's a serious matter. His mercy is incredible, but we must not take it lightly. If we say we are his and we bear his name, we must come out of the bondage and stop transgressing his perfect instructions. In John 8, when Yeshua is left talking to the woman who was brought before him for committing adultery, he pardoned her, but with the admonition, go and sin no more, go and transgress the law no more. In Exodus 22, thou shalt not revile Elohim. Revile here is from Strong's word number 7043, kalal, but to make light or trifling. So we certainly are not to make light of his character. We are to know that he is the self-existing one, and there is no other self-existing one besides him. In Exodus 3, and Elohim said unto Moses, I am that I am. I exist because I exist. He says, then gives his name a little later, Yahweh, which is the self-existing one. I am Yahweh, and there is none else. There is no Elohim besides me. I girded thee, and thou that hast not known me, and that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none besides me. I am Yahweh, and there is none else. And of course, today's Christian religions have perverted that from the teachings of the Catholic Church of the Trinity, false concept. Of course, Yeshua himself claimed that he was the son of Elohim and not Elohim, but obviously they make him out to be a liar by saying falsely who he is. But just things that people are going to have to come out of those beliefs. He is saying here that he is the self-existing, and no other one is self-existing. He's the only one. Of course, we do know now that there is another in his family. His son is certainly part of his family, but he is. But Yahweh is still the only one that always existed. Yeshua is certainly part of Elohim, and now at this point, he's ascended to be with him and is sitting on his right hand in power. Deuteronomy 6, Hear, O Israel, Yahweh our Elohim is one Yahweh. And thou shalt love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thine heart and with all of thy soul and with all thy might. And Yeshua comes along, and it's recorded through Matthew, and says unto him, thou shalt love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thine heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. So this is a commandment indeed. And Yeshua told us the night before he killed that if we love him, we'll keep the commandments. And of course, he summed up here. He's summing up the whole law of love, but of loving Yahweh, and of course loving your neighbor as yourself. And go through the commandments, and that's what they are, about love. But they still have their physical equivalents to teach us those spiritual lessons. Thou shalt have no other Elohims before me, in Exodus 20. In Exodus 20, verse 7, thou shalt not take the name of Yahweh thy Elohim in vain, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. We discussed the word name earlier. It's his character. If we take here is to wear or bear. Vain is the Strong's number 7723. Shav in the sense of desolating or in an evil way or a useless way. Basically, just again taking it lightly or guiling, and we do that if we bear that character by not representing that character. In Deuteronomy 6, thou shalt fear Yahweh thy Elohim and serve him, and thou shalt swear by his name. The Jewish people had perverted this one as well by the time Yeshua walked among them, so he had to correct them by telling us not to make our oath by anything in heaven. But what Yahweh is saying here through Moses is that we are to commit ourselves unto his name or his character, and we certainly should fear going against that character. Verse 14, you shall not go after other Elohims, of the Elohims of the people which are round about you. He's saying here that we're to not serve up the made-up images of the other, who people make him to be, and who the different Elohims of all the different pagan beliefs and stuff that reject his ways. We're to flee from those teachings and cling unto the truth, not worshiping him as the pagans did and do. In verse 15, for Yahweh thy Elohim is a jealous Elohim among you, lest the anger of Yahweh thy Elohim be kindled against thee and destroy thee from off the face of the earth. The penalty for not yielding to his character and learning his character and letting him write his character in our hearts is going to be ultimately eternal death. It's just what it is. Ye shall not tempt Yahweh your Elohim as ye tempted him in the desert. And there, of course, they not trusting him, not trusting in his provisions. I mean, it's a command. Ye shall diligently keep the commands of Yahweh thy Elohim and his testimonies and his statutes which he hath commanded thee. We are to imitate his ways. We are to imitate his name. And we are to do this with diligence and fight to keep them and fight to learn them and have him teach them to us. In Deuteronomy 28, Yahweh shall establish thee a holy people in himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahweh thy Elohim and walk in his ways. And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the character of Yahweh. The word used for sworn in this verse is the same word that was used back there in Deuteronomy 6 that we discussed. When I said we're to commit ourselves to his name or his character, he tells us here in this verse that he will commit himself unto us. But please catch the if. There are lots of big ifs in the scriptures. And he says, if you will keep the commandments and walk in his ways. And Yeshua certainly came with the same message of the if so. He recorded over and over again. Just mention one here in Deuteronomy 15. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. It's all about keeping the commandments, all of them. They teach us his character. They teach us to love. We must let him, and they teach us the seriousness of the walk that's placed before us. But we must let them write the commandments in our hearts and in our minds. And that's the new covenant that he give us. And we must embrace them, and as they teach us of his character and what we are to become as we change and grow in their image.